Am I the asshole for buying dishware at a thrift store before someone else could? This happened a few weeks ago, and I can't stop thinking about it. I went to Goodwill and saw a really lovely set of wood plates and 2 matching bowls. I actually needed them for their intended purpose. I was going to grab the stuff, but there was this woman standing in front of them with her phone out loudly complaining about how she can't find the maker's mark on the dishware as the bottoms were left blank. I assumed she was one of those resellers as her cart was filled to the brim with glassware, and I did see a leather jacket in there too. I walked up next to her and asked if she was going to buy the dishes. She glared at me and said yes and told me to get lost, she was here first. So I just said fine, no need to be rude lady, it was a simple yes or no question. I walked away to go look elsewhere, and she was now looking in the books, but the wood dishes were not in her cart. I walked over, saw them still on the shelf, and put them in mine. As I walked away, she came back and noticed I had them in my cart, and she started flipping her shit telling me she was going to buy those as they were from a super high-end artist. I told her she walked away from the shelf and left them there. If she really wanted them, she should have put them in her cart. She immediately started grabbing my cart and taking out everything from my cart as I found a hoodie thing called the Comfy and some vintage Pyrex in a collectible pattern. She said I am taking money away from good people like her, and that she was losing sales because of people like me buying shit to use and not resell. I yelled to take her hands off my shit, and by this point an employee stocking nearby came over and asked what was going on. Lady tried to say I stole stuff from her cart. I said she was stealing from mine. Reseller lady looked around and saw a different employee had taken her abandoned cart she left in the book section and was putting her stuff back. She freaked out, dropped my stuff, and ran after him. I looked at the employee who then just waved me off, and I left with empty purchases. Told some people about it, and a close friend said I should have just given her everything because reselling is her job, and another friend agreed with her. But they only said that when I said the Comfy was a $50 garment. Not the asshole. The whole point of thrift stores is people like you reusing instead of it going in the landfill. People would argue she buying cheap and reselling expensive are the leeches. Thank you for helping the environment. Good on you for saving money. And great you got something to appreciate. Resellers are the reason thrifting has gotten so expensive. You are definitely nta. People like her are the reason thrift stores raise prices. Thrift stores are not there just for resellers, they are there for people that need things. You should have given her everything because reselling is her job? What kind of scalper logic is that? Nta. Resellers are a bane of thrift shops. I buy at thrift shop on occasion if I'm looking for something vintage. Resellers are cherry-picking from donated goods. If they buy them to resell, I don't care. But if someone else is there, wants to buy for their intended purpose, and the reseller doesn't pick them up first, it's their loss. Not the asshole. She walked away, signaling she did not want those items. If she wanted them, she should have grabbed them, especially knowing you were interested and in the store. Am I the asshole for refusing to switch bedrooms with my roommate because she thinks mine has better vibes? I, 21F, rent a 2-BDRM apartment with my roommate, 25F. When we moved in 6 months ago, we agreed on who got which room. Mine is smaller, and I pay slightly less in rent because of this, but it does get better natural light in the morning. Hers is bigger and closer to the bathroom. Everything was fine initially. Just yesterday, out of nowhere, she's insisting we switch rooms because mine has better energy, and she doesn't like the vibe in hers anymore? I said no, I've already decorated, hung shelves, and settled in etc. It would be a huge hassle/effort for me to swap everything, and I'm busy enough with uni exams coming up. She got annoyed and passive-aggressive, and said if I really cared about our friendship, then I'd compromise. I offered to help her redecorate or rearrange her room, but she said it's not the same because the universe favors your room. LOL. But now she's giving me the cold shoulder, and it's making me feel uncomfortable living here when I've already been so stressed out lately. Am I the asshole for refusing to switch bedrooms with my roommate because she thinks mine has better vibes? So her theory is whatever is better goes to her? What compromise? Is her idea of a compromise do whatever I want? Not the asshole. I bet she immediately called dibs on the bigger room when choosing rooms, and now she's regretting it. She should decorate her room to give it a better vibe instead of trying to manipulate you into it by saying, if you really cared about our friendship. That's horseshit. I'd keep my room, but install a lock if you don't have one. Make sure you always lock your bedroom door when you leave. Someone this entitled would probably switch the room furnishings etc. when you are out. Not the asshole. If the universe favors your room, why is she any more deserving of that cosmic reward than you are? Believe in bullshit. Be pleased when the bullshit helps your friend rather than jealous it's not working for you. Not the asshole. I think your roomie is confusing compromise with demand. No? What was she willing to give up in her idea of a compromise? Not the asshole. Am I the asshole for not sharing my specific diagnosis? Tiny bit of background. I am physically disabled. I walk with a slight limp, use crutches and braces many days, have some substantial scars, although often covered by my clothes, etc. Most days a stranger could see that I am different, but may not really know what is so different about me. A couple semesters ago, I was taking a required class in college, and discovered it was basically woodshop class, which is not easy when I am using crutches and such. I got to know the professor pretty well, and he was amazingly accommodating, and ended up making a lot of changes to the shop to accommodate me. He reached out to me a while ago and explained that he was teaching a class that focused on designing for clients and wondered if I was willing to come in and speak about my experiences being disabled and then serve as the client. I am a huge fan of advocating through sharing stories, so I agreed pretty quickly. I went in and spoke about my day-to-day experiences. The tiny bits of inaccessibility on campus that add up for me, the way I'm treated by others, etc. I was focusing on how my disability affects my life rather than what my disabilities are, so notably, I didn't give my diagnoses. Then I met with each group of students and talked about what they could design to help me. The point was for them to notice a challenge and offer a solution. I was meeting with one group, and one of the students asked me what my diagnosis was. I said, well, I have a few, but I prefer not to share them as that is personal medical information. The student kind of rolled his eyes and said something along the lines of, well, how am I supposed to design something for you if I don't know what's wrong with you? This obviously took me back, and frankly stung a little bit. Is it wrong for me to share about my experiences without sharing my diagnoses? I can see how my words can mean less if people don't know the name of what's wrong with me. But it felt like this was supposed to be more about my experiences than the disabilities themselves. I'm feeling torn. P.S. if it matters. I generally don't share diagnoses because I have had a couple bad experiences with people Googling the diagnosis and thinking they have a full understanding of me and my life, then start making assumptions about me. Not the asshole engineer here, and all I need to know is what your challenges are in order to be able to help in that sort of class. Yeah, I want to make sure I don't offer a solution that doesn't work because of something you didn't mention, but that's part of the iterative design process. Ideally, your prof would have covered basic ethics regarding working with folks with disabilities, but they might not have thought of it either. If the student had backed off on your, I'm not going to share, ID given NaH, but they didn't. Not the asshole. No one needs the actual diagnosis to accommodate you or design things to help. All they need is the physical/mental limitations that they need to design for. That student's response is very typical of people who don't understand the nature of living with disabilities, and absolutely should be called out so all the students can learn to do better. Not the asshole, and the question was inappropriate, though possibly understandable due to ignorance. Their eye-rolling and response, however, was absolutely rude and uncalled for. Not the asshole. I would report that student's comment to your professor and explain to him how such comment makes you uncomfortable. That student was way out of line, and to prevent future incidents like this, then your professor must insist on his students to focus on how to accommodate your disability instead of asking for diagnosis and other personal information. They're not doctors, and none of them should never, ever ask you that kinds of questions. Not the asshole. He doesn't need to know your diagnosis. He needs to know how your disability affects you adversely and the problems you encounter as a result. Those two things are not the same, not least because if you take any two people with the exact same diagnoses, you can pretty much guarantee that they won't have identical symptoms. If you haven't already, tell the professor he needs the feedback that one of his students was rude to the guest speaker and also missed the whole damn point of the lesson. Not the asshole. You're absolutely correct about everything you said, and the student was very impolite in how he asked and reacted. Am I the asshole for refusing to allow my BF's best friend to come to dinner over a dirty coffee mug? So my F23 boyfriend, M25, we can call him David, has about 5 guy friends. I like all of them, and we've been on good terms for years. About once a month, I tell my boyfriend to invite them over for dinner. Usually I cook, clean the table, and do the dishes. It's a labor of love, and I enjoy doing it. This tradition has been going on for years. Most of them put away their dishes in the dishwasher, but I do the bulk of the work. Now David BF is closest with Mark, M25. About a month ago Mark broke up with his girlfriend, and he has been hanging out at our place almost every day. We all work from home, so he just shows up in the morning. I don't mind this either. David asked me if it was alright. What I mind is that Mark is a freaking slob. Multiple coffee mugs all over the house, water cups, crumbs on the counter, dirty dishes. Even his dirty socks once. I made several comments to Mark that this is not dinner night, and if he is going to be over so much, he is not going to be treated as a guest, and he needs to learn to clean after himself. He only rolled his eyes at me. I told David 2 weeks ago that Mark needs to learn to pick after himself. They had a talk, and Mark did make an effort for a few days, but we are back at square one. David saw me getting frustrated, so now Mark comes over once a week, and David is quick to clean up after him. It still bugs me the wrong way, so yesterday, when I felt like having people over for dinner, I invited everyone but Mark. David did not ask why. Maybe he figured it out, Mark came to pick something today, and asked me why he wasn't invited, and I told him. He was surprised and called me petty, and said that it was unfair to be singled out over a dirty mug. I told him that unless he changes, I am not cooking for him. He is welcome to come over, and have David wait on him, but not me. I don't know if it is important, but the house is David's, but we live together. He got upset, called me in a hole, and left. Did I overreact? I can't tell at this point. Edit. To add, since a lot of people think I am cosplaying a trad wife, consider that. I've known these people for 6 years, they are my friends at this point. My own friends have serious food allergies, so anything out of my kitchen is inedible to 2 of them, which makes for a crappy dinner invitation. I want to do this, no one is making me, no one is forcing me to slave in the kitchen. My cooking is a hobby. I am more than happy to share it with people. I do feel obligated to set up and clean up. I am the one to invite them, so it only happens when I feel like it. Maybe that's why his girlfriend broke up with him. Not the asshole, excuse me. He rolled his eyes at you when you asked him to clean up after himself? He would have never been invited back to my house after that. My husband wouldn't let his friends treat me that way. Edited for typo. It wasn't petty, and it wasn't just a dirty coffee mug. It's your home. It's also your boyfriend's job to sort this out. If I was told I was being petty by someone who treated my home like it was kindy for fully grown people, he wouldn't be welcome back at all. He can host the dinners at his place. I wondered why his girlfriend broke up with him. Do you think his lack of consideration and disrespect of others is why? Maybe that should be said. You did just right. And David is doing just right as well, cleaning up after his own friend, not putting it on you. If Mark wants to be more responsible, you've made it clear that you'll welcome him back. You just don't want to be cleaning up his messes. Not the asshole. Petty. Maybe. But petty with purpose. Dude left his nasty socks in your shared space like it was a locker room. I wouldn't cook for him either. Let him stew in his entitlement.